Hello again. Welcome to Inspired Voices with Sangwadzi. Spiweka Mapfumo. I'm back again and looking forward to another ordinary person who is doing extraordinary work. And, on Inspired Voices, we bring voices here to talk about various things, various topics, educate us, and to amplify those voices, and also to inspire ourselves, inspire other people so we know what's going on. Ordinarily, you don't see these people, you don't hear these voices, but there is so much going on back there. And today I've invited a friend of mine, Mike Tashaya, who is land and property development specialist with SIF Zimbabwe. A lot of people who are in the diaspora or some in Zimbabwe, we do understand the importance of land, but at times we just understand small aspects of it. I need to build a house, I need to do this, people sending money, can you buy me a stand, and all that stuff. But particularly people in the diaspora, there's so much money out there, and there are so many people who would like to go back to Zimbabwe. Last week I brought someone who was talking about what the BCs of relocating to Zimbabwe. But today I brought somebody who can talk to us about land and property development. And Mike, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. I'm Spirit. Thank you very much for having me. I'm looking forward to a very good conversation today.
Right. So, Mike, I keep calling you a specialist because you understand land development. You have several projects that you are doing in Zimbabwe, and I want you to talk to us about what we need to know about land development and what projects you have which are going on there.
Okay. So, I mean, Zimbabwe is a curious case. I think a lot of people know that. A lot of people that know me also know that I have just recently returned to Zimbabwe in the last 2 years. I was based in UK in London, doing a lot of development work, working with projects that were within the housing space, helping people get into the property ladder. I'm also a trained marketer. I'm very big on trying to help people understand that real estate will be the biggest purchase anyone will ever make in their lives, in terms of buying land or buying a property and things like that. So I get really excited when people make that achievement of that milestone of actually buying a property. I probably get more excited than they do because I think it's such an amazing opportunity and space to be in when you get on that property ladder. So my moving back to Zimbabwe was based around I thought I was in my mid-40s. I'm thinking there's a lot more I can do in my country of birth, in helping the rebuilding of the country, showcasing amazing Zimbabweans, and just seeing how we can help the housing crisis, not just in Zimbabwe, but in Africa as a whole. So I moved back to Zim. I've been back almost 2 years now. My thought process was, I don't think I can do this on my own. It would be good to do this with an established vehicle that's within that space. So that's how I ended up with SIF. Great company, great leadership. The MD is amazing. She's allowed me to just come in and come up with ideas and just execute, which is what we're doing. So the bigger picture of what I do in real estate in Zim is coming up with products that, one, attract the right market, two, attract a demographic that can afford it, three, that attract the diaspora market. So we do a lot of diaspora initiatives that allow people in the diaspora to invest back home, because for me that is the bottom line. I'm an ex-diaspora myself, and we're looking at those people who have done 20, 30, 40 years. I call it diaspora maturity, people who do want to retire in the second countries, which is the diaspora hotspot. And we're saying, look, we can come up with an estate that has security, that has medical facilities, which is a big thing for diasporans moving back. Health, huge.
Mhm.
We're coming up with products that attract that market. Not only that market, but also people who are able to afford to buy into these secure gated communities. So that's the one thing. At the same time, besides those gated communities, I'm also looking at, can we get products that are, low for a low income market, civil servants. How can we get civil servants, getting on the popular? The economy has been brutal for Zimbabweans in Zimbabwe. We've had our leadership issues, our political issues, but how can I get a civil servant who earns peanuts? Sorry for the word, to be able to buy a property, a stand or something, so you'll find that, and we're not even going to talk about banks, because the bank loans and mortgage interests are so high. But you're finding now that developers are coming up with long terms that suit the low income market. So I think we're actually 10 years now for terms to pay off, loan pay. I think it's going to get longer and longer. I think once this kind of phase passes through, we kind of accept our monetary policy and the Z coming in, the USD is, I personally, I believe it's going to be around for a long time. Once we accept that and settle in that sort of situation, I think we will find that the terms for paying off these properties are going to get much longer. I know we are 10 years right now, but I think it's going to get much longer than that. And we'll see how we go. But besides that, we are getting much better products in terms of what the contractors and the developers are building. Really beautiful 3-4 bedroom houses, apartments, off grid. So you've got the whole solar situation, the water. Things like that. So that's the future of Zimbabwe, and that's what I am trying to be part of, and help as many people that wouldn't have the conversation around real estate having. So I've managed to make real estate a mainstream conversation, and I think that will sort of help us in the future of what just the land situation in Zimbabwe will look like.
Thanks a lot, because I think you gave us the kind of like the overall what it looks like and what you are doing out there. And now I would like kind of to segment it and like focus a little bit on each of those ones you're talking about. You talked about like which would appeal to people maybe 50 plus and thinking of going to retire kind of thing. Yeah. And what is available, because ordinarily people just like send some money, please buy me land, then I'll send some money to build. And there are other options that are there. That's what it sounds like what you're saying to you. There are they're developers. There's a whole variety of ways of building home or acquiring land and calling it your own, right? That's what I'm hearing. Talk to me about that. The project that we're talking about, people buying and having developers have this whole complex with all kinds of things. So I think that's very interesting, because it's not everybody who wants to do that, to invest their money and go to Zimbabwe back and forth, or send money time and time again for things that are not happening. There are other things, more sophisticated ways of investing your money when it comes in. Talk to me about that. Then we can talk about I think this is more like the diaspora products, and also about these developers, what's happening with that. And then you can move on to talk about people who are like civil servants who are back home and just eking a living and trying to, everybody wants to have a home of their own. How is that working out? And maybe say for the diaspora, is that the ideal thing for them to do? Or maybe if they have the money, maybe to look at other products that you have. Let's talk about that.
Okay, so pretty broad, isn't it? I genuinely believe that, because I've been back 18 months now, and I've looked at a lot of data, a lot of conversations around investment in Zimbabwe. Is it safe? And then obviously the return on investment aspect of it, and then obviously the sanity side of it, emotional aspect of like, can I actually move back to Zimbabwe to retire? With issues that we read about, medical negligence, just the safety of investment, terrible politics. There's a lot of doom and gloom that's associated with Zimbabwe. I did look at that. And my thinking always been, so my plan to come to Zim was a 5-year plan. And it was based around two things. The first one, and I've got Gloria, your previous guest, to thank.
Yes.
One, we have to accept a lot of things about Zimbabwe, a lot of things. But the key ones are one, you have to accept that things can go wrong. Magesa Mboenda, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Our politics, ZANU-PF, are not going anywhere. Fact. Our opposition is weak. Fact. And I have to focus on what I am good at. And what I'm good at is marketing, is real estate, is property development. That's what I focus on. And that's what I can influence. And how do I influence that? I influence it by creating good products for the market, adding value to the industry, bringing in initiatives that add value to the industry. That's why I've been at the forefront of having these diaspora outreach programs where we're doing to the UK. We come to Dallas next week to bring our product to say, look, I know you guys are here, but this is what we can do for you with your investment. And what the good thing about the diaspora market is that they might not have the lump sum cash that the market in Zimbabwe might have, small market, but what they do have is regular income.
Yeah.
That's why you find that developers in Zimbabwe are doing the longer term products for the market. So I'll give you an example. So I do have a project that we're doing in north of Glen Forests, walking Domboshawa, if
That's
that
right.
makes sense. Yeah. So, and that product was essentially designed with the diaspora in mind. And the diaspora in mind I'm thinking of is those guys who've done the 20, 30, 40 years, like myself in the diaspora, but then they're thinking, I'm not going to retire in the diaspora. I want to move back home. So we're finding a lot of returnees that are in their mid-40s, so 50s, 55 plus, that are saying, I'm going to move back home and slow down and settle down. So we are doing 2-3 bed houses it's 100 houses on a 100-acre piece of land. Each unit will have about 600, maybe 700 square meters. So it's the house and a bit of land around it so that they can, do some things they might not have been able to do in the diaspora, like a swimming pool, maybe my herbs at the back, that kind of, it's in the woodland. The architect we've used to help build these houses is very good at sustainable designs that incorporate the environment. So it's woodland. So it's got the woods and water. There's a stream that goes through the development that we're going to dam. So there's a lot of water. Amenities wise, there will be a medical facility. There will be a gym, a cafe. It's going to look amazing, really amazing. And it's going to be something that allows an ex-diaspora to come in and feel at home with it because they are used to that sort of comfort
lifestyle. True.
Exactly. So that's what we're building with this. And I believe that with such a development, lifestyle state, if it works out quite well, we might have do a copy and paste of it around 20 other sites around the country. I really think
But how has the response been? Because that sounds like something I myself would love, Yeah, because they have things that I'm used to.
So the first time we launched it or spoke about it was at the UK showcase we did last year in July in Birmingham. And I'm talking about the 100 units. But on the day we launched it officially, it's just coming soon. And we had 68 expressions of interest in one day, in one city. in one country, right? So already that is establishing demand, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes as a marketer or as a business, that's all you need. So we know it's a product that will sell. I know it's a product that will sell. I'm an extra product myself. I would live there, you know. So it's I'm really looking forward to us. I mean, okay, in terms of where we are now, we are just finalizing the funding on it. We will go to ground around July, August in terms of, you know, funding will be finalized in April, May, and then we go to ground. So I think in terms of starting to build will be
Mhm.
around the October, November time. And then
Of
we'll see.
2025.
No. Immediately. Yeah, absolutely. And the occupation, maybe you're looking at 18 months, so maybe Q1 of 2020,
7.
2027, I think realistically.
Yeah.
But in terms of going to market, I think we'll go to market by the end of this year. I think we should be able to sell this off within off plan within the first couple of months. I think by end of
I,
2025 we should have all sold based on how the market has responded so far.
but then you know what? I need the average person who's listening. It's like, wow, that's something I would love to. I mean, from what what landscape that you put there, it's
Yeah,
something that's doable.
yeah.
But in terms of how much it would cost, a plus or minus, because I know
Numbers.
those variables they move, every year, depends on things. But just so that one has an idea, are we talking of 250,000? Are we talking of 300,000? I'm just
No. So my passion is affordable housing, you know that.
yeah.
And in working with the contractors and the whole team around getting this product to life, I've always very, very insistent on like I talk to the Silavan, it's not a price of the market, especially the diaspora market, where there's an assumption with the diaspora and MRI. That's not true, I know that.
Yeah.
So we're looking at right now the two beds will probably be around the 160, 170 mark. And the three beds will be around the 210 to 230 mark.
Yeah.
Could be different by the time we go
Yeah.
to market, but purely for the viability assessment and the BOQs, which is kind of like the finances around the project.
Yeah.
And those are the numbers we're working with. But when we do finally go to market, which will be by the end of this year or Q4 at least, we'll know how much we're looking for. I genuinely believe that these are products that the diaspora, older diaspora, has been waiting for. People want to come back home. People are already coming back home,
I know.
and these are products that some will be like myself, who got property already or portfolios already back in the diaspora, will be able to sell something out there and just buy in this development.
And you just move in, because I think the problem with a
Yeah,
lot of people
yeah.
who want to
No
build
terms,
back home.
nothing. Yeah, and really, we're not going to development like this. We're not going to be looking for terms. We're looking at those markets of people that already have assets,
Yes.
and it's
And they're
just
there, and they're there. They
plenty,
are there.
plenty. And then so it's a winner. I'm not even concerned about. We just have to get it right and attractive, and bring in the right people to come into establishments like this. So that's a very exciting. I think I didn't think it would happen so quickly for me in terms of really establishing projects like this. But I'm grateful to my boss, Patience at CFENT, and just allowing me to just sort of get on with it, because obviously it's a market that we really believe is the future of real estate investment, and it's already showing. So I'm very happy where we are right now.
Well, but because SIF Zimbabwe is quite a well-established organization, and
It is. It is. Yeah.
it's definitely a good option for people who would like to invest back home and would like to go back. Now, let's talk about. We were talking about the diaspora product, and what about the local people who are working and making zig? And everybody wants to own a piece of land. Everybody wants to have a home of their own. That's just as been Zimbabwe. Most Zimbabweans ever since I was a child. Vakatenga imba, vane imba.
Yes.
So
Yes.
how is that playing out right now?
So when I talk about affordable real estate
Housing,
and
yeah.
affordable space, I am always thinking about the local market and the affordability that comes with that. So it's a scary space, Zimbabwe. Our economics is not the best in the world, but we're not the worst either. And a lot of that is down to, I think, the failure to reward our employment staff. Our civil servants do suffer quite a lot, but that's our biggest workforce, especially in health. I don't think we reward them enough. And this is not a political statement. It's just basics of, team morale. You've got to keep morale high for the kind of people you employ, uh, and you know, pension funds have to do more for their employers. NRZ is a very sad case, for example. Our health space is very, very sad case, and yet the whole country right now seems like it's a construction site. There's so many developments right now
I
nationwide.
know.
I mean, there's SIF. I mean, we're overlooking over 37, 38 developments, right? And within those developments, there actually isn't an allocation of affordable housing for some of our low income staff. And one thing I did in the UK when I was running the bigger projects was the government always used to say, make sure that of any development that you're running, 20-25% of it is for the affordable market. Affordable market means low income, civil servants and so on. We should be rewarding these guys because they are part of the infrastructure that actually that's the administration of the country. Teachers, nurses, these guys, tingare chiwapa stands. State line, good. And you know what? You've done 5 years working for the Ministry of Transport. Here's a stand for you. Thank you.
Even if they're not being given, if
And
they're given opportunity to buy
yeah,
it at a reasonable price, affordable, then they
exactly.
could. People work hard, Zimbabweans. They will always work out,
They do.
eating a living to build their imba yangu yapa ground,
Absolutely.
yapa ma window yachiska. And it's a person who doesn't earn much. So how are they? What's happening with that lot?
Yeah, so it has to be a conversation that has to be had at that level, lobbying. It's just maybe as the real estate space, lobbying government. But let's reward our civil servants. Let's give them something. Some of these civil servants, when I read a story that depressed me immensely, where I think one of the associations, Yama teachers, got duped by a bogus agent that all promised some land, and they all paid on hard-earned cash to then secure this, and the guy ran away with the money. I mean, my argument is like, but what the hell were you doing with somebody who did you not do it?
That's why I'm saying I'm
feel
thinking.
sorry for them.
That's why I'm thinking it was important for me to bring you here because there are people wakangonzi got kune land. People are quick to say, look, ndakutotumira mari, ndatotumirawo mari yangu ikoko.
Due diligence.
You don't have any idea how this is going to work out. There's no legal representation, and there won't be any recourse and all that stuff. It's important to work with established organizations.
It really is. It really is. And so you don't know whether Kutisaka, do you sympathize with them or do you like say, but wait, it's hard. But I think we have to keep educating people, Kuti. Don't work with the bogus agents. Don't work with people who you haven't actually done some research on to understand whether they're legit or not, because you're gonna get really abused by the system, So anyway, going back to the point you were asking, we have so much state land, for example, right? So much state land, because a lot of the developments are happening in urban areas or towns or cities, but look at Vic Falls. Vic Falls now is suffering because Vic Falls is a whole different economy. They've got their own GDP there. But around that urban area. We also have to think about conservation and all that kind of stuff, But we have opportunities, I think, to find parcels of land around the country where we say we're going to reward our civil servants, to occupy like 300 square meters, at minimal cost that you can pay off in 20 years, for example. The government doesn't lose anything. They're not gonna, loss Yawaneta by giving their hardworking staff parcels of land to be able to, for them to be landowners at the very least, and it's also as developers. I'm a developer myself. I know I work for an estate agent, but I see opportunities, and I try and find ways we can help our low income people to engage in situations whereby their employer says, "Takwanira your piece of land around the pension fund." Yamunayo as a business. I'm having these conversations with other pension funds. I already shared 180 stands, for example, for our staff. Maybe $10,000 per person and things like that. These are conversations I'm having. So some companies are doing this, but I think government can do better with their workforce and rewarding them. It would improve morale, for example, it improve productivity, and I just feel Kuti, maybe that will contribute to efficiency of the government itself in the long run. This is not politics. This is just governance.
I know, Mike, but I mean, you know what? We all can come up with ideas of what could be done, and it's not really happening. It's not politics. It is, but it's not. But that's reality of what needs to be done to make things better for the average person in Zimbabwe, and it's not happening. But I'm talking about like right now as we talk, what is available for the civil servant, of the ordinary person who's just like eking a living? What is available there for them to buy, to purchase land, and to develop, to build homes? What's going on other than getting to the city of Harare, and then people are being in my wetlands, and then things are demolished after they build? That's another piece of conversation that needs to be done with the city, because it's really terrible. It's sad. You watch people eking a living at Samazai to go and build a house, yapera, and they come and just demolish everything. That's another piece.
Terrible.
Yeah,
it really is.
What is
there?
It's
awful. So, okay, this is going to be controversial. What I'm about to say, right? But Ukona Impeko is passed, right? Demolished because it's for XYZ. Because I'm in the industry, I don't sympathize, because I blame you for making that transaction and not doing your due diligence and getting to a point, Yoguchi, someone then comes and demolishes your house. You will spend 50, 60,000 to build. It means with our Nokta Basarako, right? Horrible, it's brutal. I apologize, but you have to do your due diligence. There are so many bogus agents there and land barons who are just ruining people's lives.
Cancellers. They are counselors who are well connected and say, "I take to be on a counselor."
Yes.
And you
Absolutely.
know it.
And counselors are in. You're right. You're right. You're absolutely right. But honestly, even if I got a piece of land from the president of China, I'm going to investigate just to make sure that piece of land is mine. Subdivision permit, a title, title deed, original document, development permits, original document, all that kind of stuff. You have to make sure. Maybe if you can't do it, employ a lawyer, solicitor to have a look at it, or conveyancer, whatever it is, to make sure that land is actually clean and is yours, right? And I'm sorry for saying this, because I think it's very, very important. Harare Drive, the issue Warren Park, where the house is demolished. we've known for years that Harare Drive is not complete. It's not a complete loop, right? Because no Pereira airport side. And it was always on the cards. Yekuti Harare Drive was going to be completed from airport side, the east, all the way to loop it to the west, to Kirkman, around National Sports Stadium. That's been on the cards since 1980. We've always known that. And then someone comes to the market and says, I'm selling land along that patch. That's a lack of education around the buyer. Because asking this how to know, actually, Lupi Harare driver said that's more than 200 people who are having their houses demolished because they didn't think it wise to investigate the whole Harare Drive project. That's why the houses are getting demolished, And I know what I'm saying is not nice and controversial.
No,
And
but it's very
true. But it's fact.
But it's true. It's a fact, and we've seen that happen time and time again. It's not only that physical Zimbabwe have been destroyed, and we know it. In fact, I would like to bring somebody from the city to explain this to us. That's another story, but it has happened.
But we are here as estate agents and as agents, where before you even sell something to you, we do the due diligence for you and make sure that is legit, and it will never be demolished. As if properties, I can tell you that we have never been involved in a project or a property that's been demolished because the paperwork has been wrong. We'll never allow that to happen. And if it does, touch wood, it never does, we will take responsibility for that. So it's the market has to be very clever and smart in how they engage in business of real estate, honestly, because it's Africa, it's Zimbabwe. There are a lot of dodgy people out there, councillors.
They are. And it happens all the time.
Let's be very vigilant about how we invest in Zimbabwe, honestly. Without because one out stands for sale on Facebook, honestly. Don't do that. Go to an estate agent, not just SIF, because obviously I know we are the best, but talk to other estate agents and just make sure that you it's legit. Put another layer of due diligence using your own lawyer if you want, just to make sure and the charcoal and there won't be any demolitions in the next few years. So so that's how I operate. And I think I'm happy to say that in joining SIF and just coming to Zimbabwe, I've brought in a fresh set of eyes to look at our due diligence process and questioning everything. And sometimes I get laughed at. But you know what? Nabasa is totally serious. Let's get it fixed.
Mike, it's already half an hour. And I'm going to have to call. I know. I'm going to have to call you back and talk a little bit more about certain aspects of what we talked today about today. But thank you so much. And we it's just a snippet. What we did is just a snippet of
There's so much stuff.
But I think those who are listening to this, Nyangoti, I know councillor goes kwakati anoziva mai wangu ebhudhi wangu and just buying land.
You need to get over
you're gonna find yourself in trouble. And for those in the diaspora who are vadongorerana nekuda kuretire, sometimes it's not worth your while to try and buy a piece of land and try to build it from there, sending money, and it just gives you so much stress. And you know what? There are options. Mike was telling us, and Mike, thank you so much for this information, and I appreciate that. And I probably will call you back to talk about more stuff on real estate, land, and property development. Some would like to invest big, like really big projects, that business projects. And, I know I've got when I call you, you're here to talk to us about that. And thank you so much.
But thank you so much for having me. And if there are any people who are interested in just having a conversation around investing in Zimbabwe, just give me a shout. I'm sure Spio will be able to share my details. I think there's a lack of education around or knowledge around how the system works in Zim. So I'm very happy to help and support you from that.
Oh, thank you so much. And for those who are following us Please subscribe to Inspired Voices. Again, we are here to, amplify these voices so we know when you're educated, you inspire other people. And when you know better, you do better. And thank you so much. And I'll talk to you again. I'll bring another inspired voice next time to educate us. Thank you so much. Have a lovely afternoon or evening wherever you are.